Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the InnerViews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze the main tactical themes in Arsenal's 2-1 win over Brentford. So in today's video, first we're going to focus on how both sides look to press, then we'll shift to Arsenal's attacking shape, and lastly we'll focus on Arsenal's wide rotations. So when we break it all down and we do look at the board, we have Arsenal in a 4-1-4-1 with Smith Rowe starting on the left for Martinelli, and then we witness Brentford in a 3-5-2 that ultimately was a 5-3-2 out of possession. So first, when we look at how both sides look to press, what we end up seeing from Arsenal was straightforward. They had the front three stepping towards the center backs, and then in that midfield zone, Odegaard was responsible for stepping towards Norgaard, and then you had Thomas Partey and Xhaka dealing with the midfield shuttlers. In those situations, when the wing backs look to push forward, that's where you would have Tierney and Cedric stepping into those advanced areas to close them down, and then the center backs would be in a 2v2 with the strikers. On the rare occasion where we witnessed Arsenal dropping off into two banks of four, it was often Odegaard and Lacazette just ahead of the three center backs and sitting in between Norgaard, and then you would have Thomas Partey and Xhaka dealing with the two central midfielders, and from there you could see Smith Rowe and Saka dealing with Canos and Henry, who are looking to push forward. In those situations, you could see Smith Rowe or Saka dealing with one of the spare center backs if Lacazette and Odegaard couldn't get across, and then that's where you would see either Tierney or Cedric dealing with the spare wing back pushing forward. So if Lacazette and Odegaard were dealing with Janssen and Pinnock, then you'd see Smith Rowe stepping towards Ayer and Tierney would deal with Sergi Canos, and vice versa. If Lacazette and Odegaard were dealing with Ayer and Janssen and Saka stepped towards Pinnock, then that's where you would expect Cedric to push forward to deal with Henry. Whereas when you look to how Brentford looked to press from the front, they had the front two stepping towards Gabriel and White, and then out in those wider areas, they did look to have the wing backs pushing forward towards Tierney and Cedric, but if Saka and Smith Rowe adopted wide positions, then they couldn't step forward to close them down. This is where you would see Jensen or De Silva stepping forward to close down Tierney or Cedric. And in those situations, for instance, if you have Jensen stepping towards Tierney, Norgaard would be stepping towards Xhaka as a spare man, and vice versa. With De Silva pushing towards Cedric, you'd have Norgaard shifting across to deal with Thomas Partey. Ultimately, in that midfield zone, if you do have Canos and Henry stepping towards Cedric and Tierney, what you'd end up seeing was that Odegaard was still having the advantage by dropping off into those inside right positions in the channels to get on the ball on the outside of De Silva, and in those situations that's where you would need a center back to push forward. But with Saka often occupying Pinnock, that's where you would need Henry to shift across or De Silva to shift across. In many situations, Odegaard was the spare man in that zone, and he was often looking to receive the ball in those areas. And around the half-hour mark, we did witness an example where we ended up seeing one of the strikers dropping off on Thomas Partey as the other stepped towards White looking to push forward, and from there you'd see Norgaard dealing with Lacazette dropping into that central area, and Pinnock would step forward in towards the halfway circle to attempt to close down Odegaard. But in many situations, the issues that Brentford encountered was the positioning of Smith Rowe and Saka, so that often always created an outlet for the Arsenal fullbacks to get on the ball, as it would force the central shuttlers to shift out to close them down, and then that's where you could see Xhaka or Odegaard dropping off into space on the outside of them and towards those inside channels to receive possession. And at worst case scenario, Ramsdale was often looking to punt the ball into the path of Smith Rowe, who was looking to break in beyond that left channel. And we also witnessed Saka making runs in between Pinnock and Henry, and his other alternative was to look to pin balls in towards Saka, who was backing into his marker and looking to link play with his teammates. Therefore, when we focus on Arsenal's attacking shape, they often came up against a Brentford side that dropped off into a 5-3-2, and they had a pentagonal shape around Thomas Partey. At times, Arsenal's shape did vary. They did look like they were a back three in possession, but there were times where they looked like more of a 4-1-5. That is due to the positioning of the attacking players, because what we ended up seeing was that Smith Rowe and Saka were adopting those wide touchline positions, Lacazette was occupying the center backs, and then Odegaard was looking to receive the ball in between the deep-lying central midfielder and the left shuttler, or on the outside of the left shuttler into that space in the inside right channel. We did witness more of Xhaka pushing into advanced positions into the pocket of space between Norgaard and the right shuttler, and from there we often witnessed different variations of his movement. He was at times looking to occupy Ayer or sitting in between the Sergi Canos Ayer gap, And there were glimpses of Xhaka occupying Ajer and looking to back into him, or simply looking to make runs off Ajer and Canos into advanced positions in the penalty area. But in terms of Arsenal's attacking play, a lot of it stemmed through the rotations of those wide areas where they were able to get 3 players involved. In the past, where Arteta's tactics have failed, we've witnessed Arsenal attacking with often 1 or 2 players in that zone. On the left-hand side, it was often 2, with Tierney consistently looking to bomb forward. And then the left-sided attacking player was shifting into the gap between the center back and the right wing back, or he was looking to check into that space to receive the ball in a pocket of space. Here, what we ended up seeing was that there was more consistency in Arsenal's play. It wasn't simply Xhaka dropping off into that inside left position so Tierney can overlap and Smith Rowe can cut central. There were times where you ended up seeing Tierney adopting the narrow position, and Smith Rowe was operating as a dribbler looking to cut central, and then Xhaka was occupying that space in between Canos and Ajer. And then the other alternative that we witnessed from Arsenal was that Smith Rowe was in the deeper inside left position, still in the final third, with Xhaka occupying Ajer, and then Tierney looking to make the overlapping run so that Smith Rowe could play him in to deliver crosses in towards the penalty area. In this example, it's Gabriel on the ball, and before pressure can be applied towards him, he looks to slide it into the pathway of Xhaka and Smith Rowe, who are both dropping off into that pocket of space. Smith Rowe's the player that receives the ball in that pocket of space, and he ends up dropping it into the path of Xhaka, who's within close proximity. And what's important next is Smith Rowe's movement. When Xhaka receives the ball, Smith Rowe runs off Jensen and is now looking to make a run in beyond Ajer, and you can see the passing lane opening up for Xhaka as Canos and Ajer split. Xhaka ends up locating the run now of Smith Rowe running off Ajer, and Canos can't tuck in due to the fact that Tierney's making a forward run, and Xhaka ends up splitting the 2 Brentford defenders to play in Smith Rowe's run in towards the left channel, and that places him in the final third where Jensen shifts across to close him down. In the second half, we witnessed Odegaard receiving the ball ahead of the midfield trio and focus on that left-hand side as Smith Rowe looks to drop off Canos to receive the ball. And now it's down to Odegaard to split those 2 midfielders, and then you could see Xhaka and Tierney unmarked in that inside left position. Odegaard does a very good job of playing the ball in towards Smith Rowe, and that now attracts Ajer and Canos towards the ball, and Smith Rowe's instantly looking to drop it off in towards Xhaka, and you could see Tierney pushing forward. When Xhaka receives the ball, you could see that now he has ample space to slide the ball into the path of Tierney as Canos was focused on Smith Rowe's positioning, and when Xhaka plays that ball into left half space, it places Tierney in a position where he can create an opportunity for one of his teammates, but unfortunately for Arteta, Tierney's delivery into the box is cleared. Meanwhile, in the past, on the right-hand side, the issue that Arsenal often had was that when Saka or Nicolas Pepe did receive the ball, there was no overlapping or underlapping runs, or no runs from the central attacking players, whether it be Odegaard or Smith Rowe, into space to pull away a fullback or a defender so that Saka or Nicolas Pepe can cut in. Here we witnessed a lot of activity from Arsenal, with Saka receiving the ball in that right touchline zone. Odegaard was looking to make overlapping runs or looking to make runs across Pinnock and Henry, and then Cedric was adopting an inside narrow position in towards the channels and looking to make forward runs in towards the penalty area. If that wasn't the case, like I said, Odegaard was often dropping in towards those inside right channel positions to get on the ball, but there were times where he shifted out towards the touchline, and that's where you witnessed Saka shifting laterally into those central areas, and Cedric was making overlapping runs beyond Odegaard to receive possession. And if that wasn't the case, it would be Odegaard in that narrow position in between the shuttler and Norgaard into advanced positions, and that's where you would end up seeing Saka on the ball and Cedric making underlapping or overlapping runs to get in towards the final third to deliver crosses into the penalty area. Initially, here you could see Saka carrying the ball down the right channel with Cedric making an overlapping run, and Saka looks to square the ball across Jensen into the path of Odegaard, who is now going to receive it and pull out Pinnock. When he pulls out Pinnock, now you could see Odegaard looking to shift towards the right channel, and he carries the ball ahead of Pinnock, and now he's looking to slide it across Pinnock and Henry into the path of Cedric as Saka continues his movement laterally in towards a central position. This creates space for Cedric to get the ball onto his left foot, and from there neither Henry or Pinnock are within close proximity to close him down, and that's where he picks out Lacazette at the front post with a good delivery. But unfortunately for Arsenal fans, Lacazette ends up scuffing this effort wide. And if we look to another example, now it's Thomas Partey sliding the ball across Jensen into Odegaard, dropping into that inside right position. As you can see, Cedric's adopting a narrow position in that central area, and Saka's looking to break forward down the right channel. It's a 2v1, and Odegaard ends up carrying the ball towards Pinnock, and he can slide the ball out towards Saka to place him in a 1v1, but he drags Jensen towards him, and due to Saka looking to push forward, that's going to pull Pinnock in towards right half space, and that creates space for Odegaard to cut onto his left foot across Jensen, and from here he could deliver across in towards the penalty area, but because no Brentford midfielders step towards him, he looks to fire a low effort on goal from this position, and it forces the keeper into a save for a corner. In many scenarios in that opening half, it was the combinations from the left and the right that resulted in Arsenal getting to good areas, whether it be Tierney making those overlapping runs, Smith Rowe dropping off a bit deeper to link play with Xhaka, or if you shift over to the right hand side, Cedric's overlapping movement, or the inside out runs from Odegaard or Saka to pull away a defender so that one of the attacking players can cut on to their left foot to impact the game. Outside of that, Thomas Partey and Gabriel in particular had very good games in terms of breaking down Brentford counterattacks in transition. In the latter stages of the second half, you could see both Brentford forwards looking to combine by splitting Tierney and Thomas Partey, but when the striker receives the ball, you could see that neither White or Gabriel are stepping tight towards him, and there's a passing lane out in the right channel. However, he looks to take his first touch in towards the central area, it cuts off the passing angle, and it allows Gabriel to get a bit tighter, and as he looks to continue his movement towards the penalty area, it's Gabriel who does well to get a foot in, and from that position you could see Thomas Partey is also recovering to close down that angle, but Gabriel does enough to halt the counterattack, and it leads to the build-up to Arsenal's second goal. But to no surprise, Arsenal claimed all 3 points from that left-hand side where their wide players were able to cut on towards their right foot, and while only one of those goals stemmed from an overlapping run, Arteta relied on elite finishing from those wide players. In the build-up to Arsenal's winner, it's Smith Rowe carrying the ball in transition down the left channel at Canos and Ayer, and focus on Tierney's overlapping run. The reason why that overlapping run is significant is because with Tierney looking to move into left half space, Ayer has to track that movement in case a pass is being played in towards Tierney, and that creates enough space for Smith Rowe to cut central, and as you can see, it was Ayer who stuck with Smith Rowe and Canos looking to track late, and that creates enough space for Smith Rowe to carry the ball on towards his right foot and wrap a superb effort around the keeper. So as you can see, this was a comfortable win for Arsenal that emphasized the significance of advanced positioning from the fullbacks to create additional space for the attacking players to thrive in the final third.